problems in Bangladesh that was their undoing. Now, the man with the biggest problem, it would appear at the moment, is Ben Duckett. He today was bowled for 5, and that's the 4th time in 6 innings that he's played in Test cricket where he's got out to an off-spinner. The other 2 occasions, by the way, it was the left-arm spin of Shakib Al Hassan. Well, Alec and Dominic are down at the cart to talk about his technical problems, but before we join them, let's just get an overview from Bob on England's beleaguered number 4. Is he beleaguered?
He sure is, Charles, yes. I mean, he looks like a coach, you know, giving the wicket-keeper practice before play, playing and missing on purpose. There's that much of a gap between the bat and his pad. He's terrified of getting out to LBW, to DRS. We've been through DRS enough, I think, to conclude that. But the other thing, today's dismissal, was a good piece of field placing by Virat Kohli, introducing the leg slip behind on the leg side there, which made him even more aware of getting outside leg stump and trying to play the ball on the offside.
Are you giving him the sobriquet yet of walking wicket, or is that still not quite there?
Well, he's looking that way against off-spinners because that's the 3rd time he's got out in an identical fashion.
Right, so why is he getting out like that? Let's go and join Dominic and Alec.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. Well, first of all, let's just talk about Ben Duckett. He's there because he's impressed in domestic cricket, hasn't he?
Listen, he's had an absolutely outstanding season for Northampton in all forms of the game. I think it's just shy of 3,000 runs, which is a brilliant effort. He therefore earned the right to be selected. And he looks for attack. You know, that is a thing. We just in his 4th innings in Dakar.
Which is this one here in Dakar.
When he posted his one and only 50 to date. He took the attack to the opposition. And this is something he was able to do for Northampton, playing 2nd division cricket. But his instinct, can I hit the ball? Yes, I can. Whether I hit it back down the ground, whether I play across the line, or also whether I'll play reverse sweeps as well. So attacking side of his game cannot be faulted. You know, he's one of the best timers of a cricket ball in the country, and he looks to dominate when he can, which is absolutely perfect. And that worked in that innings. If he's going to have a Test career, and a long one, you also have to be able to spend time at the crease, which means you have to have a good defensive method to be able to keep out the good balls. So higher the level, less bad balls are bowled, more good balls, so stay at the crease.
Well, he's struggled against off-spin, hasn't he? So if we look at his dismissals against off-spin, this is going back to Chittagong against Mehidy Hasan.
And they're all very, very similar. He gets his front foot outside the line of leg stump. His head isn't in line with the ball, and he either misses it, as he did today, or he nicked it to slip as well. Now, Paul Farbrace, Mark Ramprakash will have been working with him in the nets. But you have to remember, this winter tour has only been about 4 weeks long. So to actually make relatively big but simple changes will still be hard work. So my big thing with him...
His position, isn't it?
It's his position. So at the moment, his front foot moves first and it goes outside leg stump. But his head is still staying very much over his back foot, and therefore he just ends up just throwing his bat at the ball. But it doesn't come down in a straight line. He has to come across just because of the body shape you are in. But his foot
is that because
first.
He's open? His body is open as well?
Everything's coming around it, so he's trying to get at the ball. Whereas most people, good players, the first thing that moves towards the ball should be your head. So if your head moves towards the ball, your front foot has to follow so it's in line, and therefore your bat can come down in a nice straight line, and you can either just defend the ball, or if you want to play an attacking shot, you hit through it.
Let's just have a look at this split screen.
And
obviously Duckett is on your left and Stokes on your right.
But it's important to look at these two, because here, stop it there, his front foot moved first, outside the line of leg stump. He still has more weight on his back foot, so therefore his head is further away from the ball. And then the angle of his bat is going across the ball. So he has to be really close to the ball to hit it. If not, he's going to miss it. And that's why we've seen him get out bowled, caught slip and bowled.
And someone who's worked hard and worked hard on spin.
And Ben Stokes, you have to remember, his instinct is always to strike the ball as well, but he has put in the hard yards. And he has worked out that if his head goes at the ball first, his front foot goes closer to the ball, and therefore his bat comes down in a straight line, and he plays the ball in a very controlled manner.
So how can Ben Duckett change to that?
In time. Now, he's going to be tested because who keeps saying he's facing a #1 bowler in the world in Ravi Ashwin. But I'd be saying to him, get your head coming at the ball. And it's a pretty simple process you'd go through. You'd have someone throw an off spin. You'd say, all I want you to do is you move your head to the ball and then your foot will follow. But your head has to move first. Head, foot, straight line.
So lots of work for Ben Duckett, Charles, but it's not the end of the road yet.
Just a quick question before you leave it. Is the problems that Duckett is having here a sort of a failing of county cricket, in as much as presumably he's not suddenly come up with this technique just for this particular tour? This is, I guess, what he's done for the last 2 or 3 seasons for Northants, batted like this, isn't he?
I think what we have to remember that he's second division cricket, and the gap from second division cricket to Test cricket is absolutely huge. He won't have played against the quality of the bowlers that he's facing now. He won't have played on pitches that have spun as much of this, and the lad is only 21. So allow him to develop, give him time, and if he has to go back to county cricket to correct it to then come back, so be it. But I'm not going to go too hard at him. All I'm going to say is the very, very top players, they learn very quickly. And we'll find out whether he's going to be a top player.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Well, earlier today on our live coverage, the subject of Duckett's woes got an airing when David Gower broke the habit of a lifetime and headed for the nets.
I'll just say one thing before I get into this. It's a long time since I've done this. And when I used to play, which is many, many years ago, playing spin in India, for instance, you could do one thing very, very differently, which was you could get bat and pad nice and close together. You could play like this. You could, no one was going to give you out. Well, some umpires would, but by and large, DRS was 30 years away. No one had the confidence necessarily to give you out if the ball hit the pad and you had a good stride in like this. So you had that double line of defence. Nowadays, you have to, by the look of it, get the bat somewhere out there, so you try and get bat on ball. But the point about Duckett is this. When he doesn't get that foot into the right sort of line, if it's in the wrong postcode, and you're trying to use solely hand-eye coordination to kind of guess where the bat has got to be, if you don't get that moment absolutely right like that, then you've got a space here, it might go off the pad, you've got the space there, we saw that today, it goes and hits the off stump. Therefore, you have to still, as Moeen did so well, get pretty much together with that bat just that little bit further out. And I think the other thing that's involved is this bat lift. Now, if you've got, as the two of them have, a wristy pickup like that, it's beautiful when the ball is coming onto the bat and you've got a little bit of space outside off stump and you just hit through like that. You wallop it before any time you like on a good pitch. As soon as you need the bat to be straight, you've got to somehow try and make sure that even with that wrist there, you get the bat coming through earlier on that plane through there. So you've now got that straight bat covering a lot of the ball. If it turns a long way, fine. I mean, you can't do too much about the ball turning a long, long way. But if you've got that Duckett position, where the bat actually ends up, and you've seen it on the still somewhere over there, at some sort of weird angle. I mean, you've just opened up everything. So I think what he has to do, in conclusion, really, is try and somehow do 2 things. One is get the foot in the right place first. That will lead to other things happening. Secondly, try and get the bat to come through more on that sort of plane and cover more of the stumps behind you. If you can work on that, albeit he hasn't got much time on a tour of India, then I think that'll be a fantastic thing for him to learn. Final point, he is already a very, very fine player. We've seen that from his runs over the last couple of years. This is all part of the education. So I hope that's been useful. It's the last time I'm going in the net for quite some time.
The incomparable David Gower. And David, Bob, did you notice that when he was in the zone there, the way that he lined everything up, including the Z behind his head, meant that he was the one? Or maybe it's the only one net he's having this decade, I don't know.
Or the special one, perhaps.
Well, yes, he was the special one. Obviously, he knows a thing or two about batting. He was the real deal.
Oh, yeah, I mean, certainly one of the best left-handed players since the Second World War, possibly of all time. So he should know what he's talking about, and he had success on spinning pitches. We all like batting on flat wickets. Somerset got slightly castigated this season for their pitches at Taunton, going from featherbed batting paradises to bunts and burners. But not only did Leach benefit from those pitches, but surely the batsmen who played against spinners on that pitches would have benefited as well. So I do think there's a case for having pitches that do turn from quite early on in the match.
Right, now, I get and hear what you're all saying about what we mustn't get on Duckett's case and that he is a fine player. But the fact of the matter is he England's number 4?
Time will tell. Now, this test match is crucial and it looks like we're going to be on the wrong end of the result. So there is the ability to leave him out and say, go back. We're not going to kill you here. Just go back. He won't be the first player to have done that. Work in the nets and then come back again. They may choose to give him one more test match and see how that goes. And then you can shuffle the order around a little bit. Now, if that happens, people say, well, what about Bairstow? He's England's leading run scorer this year or in the world. This year, can he go up to 4 and keep wicket? For someone who kept wicket, and especially in that part of the world, I'd be saying no. I'd push Mo and Ali up to 4 if they are going to make a change, and Bairstow comes to 5 because it just allows him that little bit more time to recover after a long session with the gloves on.
We'll come on to that in a minute, but let's just get your absolutely cast-iron view on Duckett. All depending, of course, what happens in the second innings. But if there was another failure, would you be saying that's it for the moment, given that there are 3 test matches to go and England have now got to start winning test matches in order to compete in the series?
I'd want to know how Buttler's batting. I'm not bringing back balance. It would be whether if Buttler is batting nicely in the nets and they believe that he can fit in at probably 7, then I'd seriously consider leaving Duckett out.
He plays for me. He plays for me, the third one. I just think it's too quick to get rid of him. I saw enough in Dhaka. I was there, watched it. Yes, they'll say against Bangladesh, it was it's a wicket that spun more than this. Okay, yes, it didn't have Ashwin, didn't have Jadeja, but they had a very good off spinner in Mehedi Hassan. I'd give him one more. I think it's too easy to just say, look, he's been out now too many times to that. I think technically you can see he's got an issue. I think we know that. And I just said as we were listening there to David Gower, I'm surprised, knowing Mark Ramprakash and the way that Mark Ramprakash played spin, where he used to get a long way forward and have his bat in front of his pad, that he's not trying to get him to do that. He may be finding it hard to adjust, as you said, in this short space of time of these test matches.
Thing. The itineraries now do not allow people to try and correct these little faults that they have in their technique. In a zonal game or regional game, president's game, they're having to try and do it in a test match, which is far from ideal, especially when someone of the age of Ben Duckett at 21 doesn't know his game yet.
OK, so Dominic's keeping him, you're possibly keeping him, possibly dropping him, depending how Butler's going. Bobby?
It's a tightrope walk, isn't it? We've seen the likes of James Vince have 7 test matches, and then the black felt tip pen's gone through his name. Presumably the same with Alex Hales. We've seen it with Sam Robson as well, and Adam Lai. They had 7 test matches, did OK in 1 or 2, but they decided he wasn't good enough. Now, I think I'll go along with Alex's point of view that perhaps the best thing is to leave Duckett out now with the option of bringing him back rather than hanging on to him for the rest of the series and, say, starting in the summer, although the first test match isn't until July, and give him 7 test matches before they wash their hands of him. I think these are particularly difficult circumstances for him to play. And I also think that we've got 7 left-handers in the side and 5 in a row. And I think another right-hander in that lineup would be a help.
When you consider the position of number 4 in the England batting lineup, I mean, there have been some of the greatest players the game has ever seen have batted at 4 for England. And at this stage, you wouldn't say Duckett's going to get into that category. At this stage, he may do later on. Yeah. So if you were to make a change now, how would you fiddle with it as far as the touring party that's out there at the moment?
No, well, I'd sling Mo and Ali up to 4. And then you can either keep Stokes at 5, Bairstow goes up to 6, Butler comes in at 7.
And does Butler keep for you, or are you sticking with Bairstow?
No, sticking with Bairstow.
Okay.
Bairstow is the
England
very
good in Bangladesh. He's been very good here.
But he's England's wicket-keeper. You know, just because he's a very fine batsman, his keeping is improved out of sight. And is Butler that much better a keeper? I don't think he is, no.
There were times, Alec, in your career where you were a very fine batsman and was suddenly given the gloves and vice versa. So, I mean, it's not unheard of for changes.
But Bairstow is the keeper. So because he's not only kept wicket after playing as a batter, if they decide to leave Jack out to bring a batter or bowler in, it wasn't Jack's fault.
The fact is, Bob, that Bairstow wasted at 7?
Well, he's too low in the order for the way he's playing at the moment. It's already been said he's the leading run scorer in world cricket in 2016. I know England have played more tests than anybody else, but that's a phenomenal record. And if you had somebody averaging 65, you don't really want them coming in at number 7 with the risk, particularly without Wokes in the side, of Bairstow being left with the tail. So there's certainly a case for him going up the order. Alec wants Moeen at number 4, but Moeen, if he bowls well, there's a possibility that they might leave Ansari out and play another seam bowler in Mahali. And Moeen might have bowled 37 or 40 overs and then strap them on straight away. So it's a delicate balancing act. And, of course, it's another case of Buttler getting better and better as a player when he's not in the team. We don't know how he's playing in the nets. Presumably Duckett has played better in the nets against the England off-spinners than he's playing out in the middle, because he's just making the same mistake time and time again.
See, one thing the selectors could have done, I won't say should have done, but could have done, that after Bangladesh, they weren't going to pick Gary Balance. So I just see Gary Balance at the moment as a drinks waiter. So why not just say to Gary, you're not coming to India.
Going to Dubai with the Lions, yes.
You go there and bring a Billings or a Jason Roy or someone like that over so that they can then find out more about him.
Well, they didn't, and we've got what we've got, and doubtless we will return to this before the end of the series. Thank you very much indeed for the moment, gentlemen. It's now time for our last break. Next, though, we're going to move away from what's happening in India ever so slightly, because we're going to focus on the ball tampering row, which is set to penalise cricketers with a sweet tooth. We'll see you in a mo. Welcome back to the last part of tonight's verdict. Just to remind you of where the Test match has got to after 2 days in Visakhapatnam. India 455 all out, so England did pretty well this morning, picking up those last few wickets and keeping India under 500. But then when they batted, they collapsed from 50-odd for 1 to 80 for 5. And by the close, they'd recovered a bit to 103 for 5. But they're not in a very happy situation. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the cricketing world, all sorts going on. 30-year-old Zimbabwean-born Colin de Grandhomme made a sensational debut for New Zealand in the first test in Christchurch. With his Richard Hadley look-alike moustache, he took 6 for 41 as Pakistan were bowled out for just 133. He'd only ever taken a 5 for once before in his 83-game first-class career. Well, by the close, New Zealand were 104 for 3, with the Kiwis' other debutant in the game, Jeet Raval, 55 not out. And our coverage of that game resumes at 9:45 tonight on Sky Sports 3. In Colombo, England's women wrapped up their rain-affected fourth one-day international against Sri Lanka, having made 240 yesterday. Laura Marsh and Danny Hazel made short work of the Sri Lankan batting lineup. They took 7 wickets between them. The Sri Lanka were bowled out for 78. These are the final facts and figures from that game, and it all means that England won the match and the series 4-0. Finally, some news today from Dubai that the ICC has charged South Africa's acting captain Faf DU Plessis with a ball tampering offence. This was after TV footage during the Hobart test appeared to show, and these are the words from the ICC statement, Du Plessis applying saliva and residue from a mint or sweet to the ball in an attempt to change its condition. Now, Du Plessis, who faces a 1-test ban if found guilty, has denied the charge, but it's not the first time Du Plessis has been involved in this sort of incident. You may remember in 2013 he was found guilty after footage showed him rubbing a ball on the zip of his trousers. And it is, of course, just the latest in a long line of ball tampering incidents which have littered cricket, including, here are some of the best, 1994, there was England captain Michael Atherton and the dirt in the pocket affair. 2001, Sachin Tendulkar was caught apparently ball tampering in a row against South Africa. He was found guilty by match referee Mike Dines, and India refused to carry on that particular tour until it was overturned. And famously at the Oval in 2006, when Darrell Hare awarded 5 penalty runs against Pakistan for scratching the ball, Pakistan ended up forfeiting the match. So ball tampering is nothing new, but this one, ball tampering for sucking a sweet and putting saliva on the ball, is a little bit new for the ICC. Well, Bob, before your time, all of this, so let's go to our resident, fairly recent seamer. Would you ever have been charged with this sort of thing,
I wouldn't
Dom?
have been, hopefully would never been charged with it, but let's be honest, is this the first time that people have done this in a game? I don't think so. And it's a difficult one to prove, you know. Is that a Is that a sweet? Is that a mint? What is it?
What does it matter
mouth?
if it is? You're allowed.
Well,
is there anything in the law which says you can't suck a sweet while you're fielding?
No, but what they're saying is that it's altering the condition of the ball. But has this been going on for years? Yes. Are people still doing it around the world in international cricket? Yes. So why pick on Faf du Plessis? I don't understand it. But, that's some of the things that I don't understand from the ICC. That's one of them.
Does it still go on in county cricket today? You're involved in the county game.
Yeah, it is. Not going to hide behind it. If people can find a way of, let's say, altering the state of the ball, then it happens. It's happened for a long, long time, going back, when Bob was playing, before Bob, and it's now carrying on now, whether it's Murray mints, whether it's wine gums, whether it's, nowadays you play in Australia where the sun's out. If you wipe your arm, you've got sun cream and put it on the ball, that would alter the state of the ball. I think the biggest thing is, first of all, can you prove it that he actually put his finger onto the sweep and didn't just lick his lips and then put it on the ball? You're going to have to get scientists and chemists in to probably prove yes or no. The scratching of the ball seems to create more discussion and more issues than perhaps sun cream or the sweets, the sugar from the sweets, or going back in time perhaps, was it Vaseline, I think, was perhaps used? Were
you on that tour to India when John Lever was accused of putting Vaseline on the ball?
Yes, we were playing in very hot and humid conditions, and the then England physiotherapist Bernard Thomas had the idea of putting gauze on our eyebrows to stop the sweat running into our eyes, and the gauzes are fixed with Vaseline. And John Lever didn't like this hampering his vision, and he threw one of the pieces of gauze on the ground, and the umpire noticed that it had Vaseline on it, and all hell broke loose. But I can assure you that John wasn't using the Vaseline to shine the ball.
But is it possible that the Vaseline on his forehead or wherever could have got on the ball?
Of course it's possible, yes, like sun cream and, going back to the 72 Australians, there are all kinds of accusations in that tour of lip salve being used to shine the ball when Bob Massey bowled England out at Lord's, 16 wickets, and he disappeared from the scene almost as quickly as he arrived.
So you've seen it since you started playing back in the 70s. It's obviously gone on ever since. Isn't it time the ICC just realised, and cricket realised, that it should just... bottle tops, different matter altogether, but just get on with it. Just get on with cricket.
Yeah. The problem is, you've just said it there. Bottle tops, that's different. A bottle top alters the state of a ball, if bottle tops ever have been used. And the sugar from a sweet does change the state of a ball. So it's, where do you draw the line? That is the thing, because Murray mints are used. I've seen fielders dive at square leg and the Murray mints fall out of their pocket and they're crawling around the square leg umpire, hoping he hasn't looked down and seen them. And quite often umpires have said, "Oh, let me have one, I want to freshen my breath up."
The way Dominic's laughing, were you there?
No, I was there, it wasn't me. I'm just going to go on the fact that when Bob Headingley in 1981, the reason why I wanted to play cricket was that test match, one of them, and Ian Botham and Bob. And Bob Taylor, who worked for the company Dukes, who made this specific batch of balls in that era, he once showed me the difference between the leather that was used when Bob was there and the leather that was used now. It's completely, obviously, differently manufactured. There's a lot less dye on it. And hence why I'm giving the reason why I think people started to use Murray mints is because it scuffs a lot easier.
There are other mints available, aren't there?
Correct. Any other mint or anything, Vaseline, whatever it is, there are. But also the fact pitches have got harder, there's more rollers, so it scuffs a lot, and you're trying to, that's why, people try to keep the ball shiny. It doesn't happen, in other countries, in India it goes very quickly, Australia, West Indies. So that's the reason why.
We've been on tour, and there are certain makes of sun cream that shine the ball up better. Now, you're going to be saying, sorry, you can't use factor 50, you're going to get skin cancer, because you might end up shining a ball. It's where do you draw the line?
I think this is nonsense, by the way. I think it's absolute nonsense to charge Faf du Plessis. If you're charging him, charge every single bowler, every single fielder, everybody who's thrown the ball. Does Joe Root? Is Joe Root part of that then? Is in my day, who's the best shine? Is Marcus Trescothick? Is all these people? Am I guilty? Are we all guilty?
Were you or weren't you?
No, I'm just saying, are we all guilty of it? Because I would have used a ball that would have had a Murray mint on. I'm not saying I put it on, but I'm saying is that that would have been used. Of course I would have been. There'll be millions of bowlers out there. So don't just victimise certain people. It's got to be everybody or no one.
We have to be careful because there'll be plenty of Pakistanis watching this who'll be saying, why is it us when we scratch the ball we get penalised, yet the sweep doesn't?
Bob, final word on this for you as our senior judge.
Well, it's a very, very delicate issue, isn't it? And I think the ICC have got this one wrong. I think they've opened a can of worms. I wouldn't be surprised if the legal beagles will be in on it before long, defending Du Plessis, and it might run and run. But we don't want to see players openly cheating, but